Hi there, friends. A little while ago, I made a video where I was attempting to wrangle my digital TBR. I had accidentally added on Everand and on my various library ebook. I had accidentally accrued over 500 titles saved between my Everand subscription and my two different library BorrowBox accounts. And when I was going through that and making this giant spreadsheet, I realised that there were a lot of books on there that I'd either kind of heard of or I had just saved because normally they'd come up on like a recommended, if you liked this title list, which Everand is very good at doing. And I'd just gone through and saved loads of titles, but I don't actually know what those books are or even why they are on my list. So I made a spreadsheet. It's all in the video that I will link down below. I'm not going to recap that whole drama. But essentially, there's a big chunk of books which I have just categorized on that spreadsheet as no idea. No idea. I don't know anything about them. And I thought today, it is currently 9:45 on Saturday morning. Lewin and I are in from our morning walk. We have done some chores and now I am sitting down and I have zero plans for Saturday and Sunday, with the exception of hanging out with my partner in the evenings and walking the dog. That's my life for the next 2 days. So I thought it might be fun to give some of these books a go. And I think what I'm going to do is just go to the bottom of the saved list on Everand and start with the books that have been on there the longest that I don't particularly recognise. And we're just going to do some try a chapter stuff and we'll see how it goes. According to my saved list at the minute, because it does sort of change on Everand, I didn't know this until recently, that if you read on there a lot, I'd always understood it to be an unlimited subscription, but they do disable some titles on your save list until your next month rolls over. So you can still read loads and loads and loads of titles, and it doesn't limit the amount, it doesn't limit the number of books you can read, but it does limit which books you can read. And they won't explain the algorithm to me. I have asked, but because it does make it kind of annoying if you create content, because I had 2 books that I wanted to read for my Impatient Reading Vlog series. For my Impatient Reading Vlog in September, there were 2 titles that I really wanted to read, and they're not available on Everand until the 16th of September, which is fine. It just means I could have... It just means it'll take me longer to get to them this month, but that's okay. But it does mean that I don't have every single book available that is on my saved list to read right now. I think I've got about 150 that they are holding back from me. But I think we're just gonna kick off with the first book, which is East of Hounslow by Khurrum Rahman. And shall we read the little description, and then I can read you maybe the first line, and then I will go away and read, I was gonna say a chapter, but I'll just read enough to get a vibe of when I might want to read this book, if I might want to read it, get a feel for the writing so that I can understand, oh, this is maybe a book that I could read as a buffer book between reading other heavier things that require a bit more brain taxing or emotional taxing. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like to categorize books a little bit like that so that I can, because I read multiple books at a time, but I always try to have a lighter one and a heavier one on the go. I don't need to explain this to you. So it says, shortlisted for the Theakston's All Peculiar Crime Novel of the Year Award 2019, shortlisted for the CWA John Creasy Debut Dagger Award 2018, and the Crime Fest Last Laugh Award 2018. So this was published in 2017. And it says, meet Jay, small-time dealer, accidental jihadist, the one man who can save us all. Javid, call him Jay, is a dope dealer living in West London. He goes to mosque on Friday and he's just bought his pride and joy, a BMW. He lives with his mum and life seems sweet, but his world is about to turn upside down because MI5 have been watching him and they think he's just the man they need for a delicate mission. One thing's for sure, now he's a long way east of Hounslow, Jay's life will never be the same again. The pulse-pounding spy thriller featuring MI5's most unlikely and hilarious new hero, Jay Kasim, fans of Mick Herron and Ben Aronovich. Oh, they've quoted this guy twice and spelt his surname differently both times, so that's helpful. Will love this fast-paced and gripping new crime thriller series. Okay, so it goes east of Hounslow, then homegrown hero, though ride or die. So, do I want to get into another series? But to be fair, I enjoyed the Frida Klein series. This feels like it's going to be a very different vibe. Let's see. It's 470 pages long. My name is Javid Kasim. That's the first sentence. I am a Muslim, a British-born Muslim. Do you know how many times I've been pulled over by the police since 9/11? Once, and that was because I was nonchalantly jumping lanes without indicating my intentions to my fellow drivers. I got a ticking off from the fuzz, who were quite happy to forgo the paperwork and give me a friendly warning. They didn't even search my car, even though the stench of skunk was unmistakable. To this day, I'm proud to say that I have never had my fingerprints taken. Okay. I think it might take me a while to figure out. Okay. Well, I'm going to crack on. See you soon. Okay, well that was quite quick. The first chapter's only a couple of pages. I think I would put this in a category of, like, I would probably read it and have a perfectly good time with it, but it's very informally written. It definitely feels like it's going to be like a pacier, sort of a little bit hyperbolic thriller. The voice is, I think he is young, isn't he? But like the voice is really quite young. And so I think I'm gonna move this maybe to a separate part of my spreadsheet. That's like maybe one day if the conditions were right. I mean, I could imagine like if I was going on a really long flight, which actually I am going on a really long flight soon, but I've already sorted out what I think I'm going to read for that flight. Like it could potentially work for something like that, but I don't think it needs to be sitting on my saved list right now. So we've tried one and we've removed one. I'm going to continue working from the bottom of my saved list up, but I am going to skip some titles that don't fit the category I know nothing about this book, and I'm just going to go through and pick the ones where I'm like, I don't know what that is. So for example, Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukagawa is on here, and I know a bit about that book. I know why that's on my TBR. However, The Island of Sea Women, I have no idea about. So let's read a little bit about this. A beautiful novel of female friendship and family secrets on a small Korean island. Okie dokes. Mija and Young Suk, two girls living on the Korean island of Jeju, are best friends that come from very different backgrounds. When they are old enough, they begin working in the sea with their village's all-female diving collective, led by Young Suk's mother. As the girls take up their positions as baby divers, they know they are beginning a lifetime of excitement and responsibility, but also danger. And I think this is historical. Yeah, so it's an epic set over many decades. I don't always do very well with an epic, but during the 30s and 40s following World War II. Okay. So this is the era when Korea had been colonized by Japan. Interesting. I think this is going to be a very different vibe to the East of Hounslow. Let's try the first chapter. I do think the cover of this is very beautiful. That's praise. I don't need to read the praise. I would like to read the book. Author's note. Day 1, 2008. An old woman sits on the beach, a cushion strapped to her bottom, sorting algae that's washed ashore. That's your first sentence. Who is this old woman? I mean, we read the description, so we know who the old woman is, probably, right? But who is this old woman? Okay, you know what? I didn't actually read the whole of the first chapter. I only read a few pages, but I liked it, so I don't feel like I have to continue. Yeah, it starts, what I hadn't put two and two together when I was like, oh, day 1, 2008, that obviously the majority of the book is set in the 30s and 40s. So we are following young Suah, who is one of the girls that we'll be meeting for the majority of the book. And at this point, she's an old woman, and she is still a woman of the sea, and she's fixing nets at the side of the water. And so we know from the outset that whatever happens in the book, young Suah is gonna stick it out. She's gonna stay on this island and become a woman of the sea. And she is she's the matriarch. Well, they don't call it matriarch. What do they call it? A matrifocal culture, which is not a matriarchy, but rather a society that is focused on women. Which I thought was interesting. It wasn't like the most beautiful writing that I've read, and it is a long book. It's 500 pages, or at least the ebook version is 500 pages, which I feel like the ebooks are sometimes a little bit longer. But yeah, it's a decent length book, which makes me think it will depend how the story unfolds as to whether or not it ends up being a book that I would love. I don't think I would necessarily love it, but I'm interested enough in it that I'm happy for it to stay on my TBR, and I'm gonna move it out of the no idea section and put it in the I definitely wanna read this book and give it a go section. And what I do on my spreadsheet is I am roughly kind of rank the books. So the ones that are on the top on my TBR are like the ones that I'm most excited to get to. So let's see where we would put this. I don't think it's gonna be super high up, but that's because I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the cover, but it is giving winter vibes to me. So I don't think it's a book that I'm gonna read immediately, but I could see myself reading it to be fair, you want to read it at the coast, really, don't you? And sometimes I go down south to visit family in January time. Then would be a good time to read this. But next, she's staying, so that's good. So, one has been bumped and one's gone on to the definitely want to read. So far, this is working. Ooh, now, this is intense. I may have to Google this book. So the next one I've got is, oh my goodness, and my Chinese pronunciation is not brilliant, but it's A Dream of Red Mansion, Complete and Unexpurgated by Kao-Shi Quinn. Is that how you pronounce that? And translated by Gladys Yang. And the reason I want to get some reviews on here, it's only had one review on Everand, so I'm not going to go with that. But the reason I want to look at reviews as well is because this book is 2,300 pages. Okay, so that is what I thought. Because the problem with Everand sometimes is that it's obviously telling you the information about the edition. So it says released in 2016, and I'm like, I'm sure this is a classic, and it is. It was written in the 18th century. So part of me wants to read it because I'm like, oh, this is a Chinese classic. But let's see what Goodreads says. And let's see what Storygraph says. Realistically, is it even worth me reading it today? Because what I can tell you is that I've got no plans to read this book for a very... I don't have space in my reading schedule for a 2,500 page long Chinese classic, much as I would like to give it a go. We'll give it a read. It's got 4.2 stars on Goodreads, and it's got what on Storygraph? 4.08 on Storygraph. So it is probably good. Oh, but you know what? It's only 120 chapters. What's that? Oh no, to be fair, that's 20-page chapters, isn't it? That's alright, I can do that. Oh no, it's cool! Oh no! Okay, apologies in advance for my poor pronunciation. I will, if I do read this, I will make sure I learn how to pronounce these character names correctly. But Zhen Xiyin, in a dream, sees the jade of spiritual understanding. Now, I will type that on the screen as it appears. So it is capitalized. So Zhen Xiyan, in a dream, sees the jade of spiritual understanding. Jia Yukun, in his obscurity, is charmed by a maid. This is the opening chapter of the novel. In writing this story of the stone, the author wanted to record certain of his past dreams and illusions, but he tried to hide the true facts of his experience by using the allegory of the jade of spiritual understanding, hence his recourse to names like Zhen Xiyin. But what are the events recorded in this book, and who are the characters? About this, he said, so, do you know what this kind of reminds me of? And this isn't a classic book, this is a more contemporary book. In the Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which I remember really enjoying, although this has told me what I thought would be the case, which is, I do want to read it, but I think this in itself is a whole reading project. This is a book I think that has to be read carefully and with focused attention, and I would like to do that, but not right now. I'm using the Books Unbound nomenclature of Acorn, i.e. books that you store up, because they're classics, you can kind of get to them at any point, you know? I feel like with a classic, you've already missed the boat to be one to discover it. Do you know what I mean? So, right. So we're happy with that. Okay, so this well and truly falls into the category of... I'm sorry, am I in your way? Into the category of no idea. No idea. This is The Theory of War by Joan Brady, which came out in the 90s. So it's possible... Was this on a prize list? It won the Costa Book of the Year in 1993. Okay, so this is a historical novel. But historical set when? Oh. So this is following a woman called Mallory Carrick, who is described in the blurb as being confined to a wheelchair, which... seeks to find out the truth about her grandfather's history, and her grandfather, it looks like, was forced into slavery as a child. He's a white man, and this is post-American Civil War. So slavery's just ended, but her grandfather is somehow sold into slavery as a child, and he grows up and escapes, but feels the need to revenge against George Stokes, who is the son of his former master. We'll try a bit, but I'm not loving the vibe it's giving. But I mean, it won a lot of prizes, but you know, some things won prizes in the 90s that... Okay. The epigraph is a quote from, who's this person? Robert F. Murphy. So the quote is, disability is an allegory of all life in society. And that was by a man called Robert F. Murphy from a book called The Body Silent. Now, he was an American anthropologist who did have a tumour on his spinal cord, which meant that he was paralysed for the last 16 years of his life. So that is an Own Voices quote. What my reservation is that this author is clearly telling us that, hi, I'm about to use the experience of being a wheelchair user as a metaphor in my book. And do you know what? I don't want to read it. I'm not getting good vibes. If you've read it and you think it's brilliant and you think my read on this is wrong, feel free to let me know. But I think that's going in a no pile. We're still keeping it even on 2 off and 2 on. Now, the next book on the list is the summer book by Tove Jansson, and I definitely want to read that, so that's fine. Then we have Our Mutual Friend by Dickens, Acorn classic. We don't need to read a bit of that. We have, okay, my goodness, we've got a lot of historical fiction on here. The next thing we're going to be reading is The Parted Earth by Anjali and Enjeti, which is set in August 1947. 16-year-old Deepa's life in New Delhi begins to unravel in the days leading up to the birth of the Muslim minority nation of Pakistan and the Hindu majority nation of India. Interesting. Her secret Muslim boyfriend Amir, who sends her origami love notes, must now flee with his sister Layla and their parents to Lahore, Pakistan. Amir promises to return to Delhi to marry Deepa after the violence of partition has ended. What's the book that I've read that's really good that's about the partition? I can't think. I feel like I've read a children's book that's set in the UK but that talks about the partition. Is that a thing? Let me know. Anyway, The Parted Earth by Anjali and Enjeti. Let's give it a go. We have... ooh, goodness. Lots of stuff at the top. Author's note, what's she telling us? Okay. Work of fiction, but the partition is not a fiction. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Chapter 1, New Delhi, June 8th, 1947. The afternoon air hung heavy and thick. In the classroom, it dwelled in the aisles between desks like phantoms. Okay. I'm going to carry on silently now. This one's not for me, sadly. Again, I haven't read a full chapter. It's written in very close third person. And I think because Deepa is only 16, that is manifesting in like quite a lot of short sentences, quite simple, and an awful lot of exposition. And I feel like I could read it and it would be perfectly fine. But I've got so many books that I want to read. It's a real shame because I would like to read a version of this book, but I don't think I will read this book. Okie dokie. Next up, we have Dreamland by Rosa Rankin-Gee. Hi, baby. And this says, for fans of Children of Men, Years and Years, and Station 11. Now, I haven't read Station 11. I know, I haven't read Station 11. I really did like Children of Men. Years and Years, I liked the idea of, but felt a bit clobbered by it and would have appreciated a bit more subtlety. But this is a queer... It's tagged, the genres are tagged as fantasy, lesbian fiction, gay fiction, contemporary romance, science fiction. And it has been written up by Britt Bennett, likes it. My reservation, if it is a queer... Yeah. I think this sounds quite similar to Private Rights by Julia Armfield. In the coastal resort of Margate, hotels lie empty and sun-faded for sale signs line the streets. The sea is higher, it's higher everywhere, and those who can are moving inland. A young girl called Chant, however, is just arriving. Chance's family is one of many offered a cash grant to move out of London, and so she and her mother Jazz and brother JD relocate to the seaside just as the country edges towards vertiginous change. We'll give it a go, because I like the sound of it. I just think it might be one that I don't read soon if it does feel a bit too similar to like a book that I've read quite recently. Ooh, I prefer that cover. So the yellow cover that I'd put on the screen before is the cover that it's got like on the app. But then in the actual book, can you see that? It's got that cover, which gives me much more dystopia vibes than fantasy vibes. But here we are. Oh, okay, that's prologue, that's fine. It just started and there was no chapter heading or anything, and I was like, oh, please don't tell me there's no chapters in this book. But there are chapters. They just don't tell you when the chapters are. Fine. Okay. Today, I watched a man walk into the sea. Okay, so we have a prologue. It's written in first person from Chance's perspective, and it's quite harrowing. I guess it's not a spoiler because it happens within like the first 2 pages of the book, but it begins with the man who's walked into the water was actually running into the water, and he was running in because his son was in there who went missing yesterday. And he has drowned, so it's this father recovering his son's drowned body from the water, which is okay. And then Chance is there and sort of helps him, and then it cuts to her being at home in a flat with her mum, and then she says, Oh, I never showed you inside my flat, did I? So we realised that this is in first person because she is addressing this story to someone, or at least in the prologue she is. And then the prologue ends with someone knocking on their door and a sound that should have been impossible of a key being inserted into their front door when there shouldn't be anyone with a key. And that's the end of the prologue. I'm sort of interested. I do think it's I think it is a book that the writing might not work for me, because it was a lot of short sentences, and I know some people hate long sentences. Lots of short sentences I find quite exhausting and a little bit annoying. But I think I'm sort of interested enough. So I will keep it on my TBR. I will move it to oh baby, your pillow's wrong. Oh God, it's so hard to be Lewin. Yeah, okay, Lewin up. Good boy. But you... Sometimes I have to just touch the pillow, and he thinks I'm doing something magical to make the pillow more comfy, I think. But right, what was I doing? I'm gonna put it in, but I'm not gonna put it high, because Everand have this as an ebook and an audiobook. I think with those short sentences, the audio definitely won't work for me, so I can at least take that audiobook off. The good news is, it is now cold enough that I feel the need to put a cozy jumper on in my living room. I'm so thrilled. Right, I've got some cereal. I think what I'm gonna do now, because this is, I haven't even been going for an hour. I thought this would take much longer than it's taking. I'm gonna do maybe like 5 books and just come back and give you an update after I've done 5. Because I feel like this video is going to be longer than it needs to be if I keep individually checking in. But I'm excited about the next one, which is A Greater Music by Suah, which is a Korean book translated by Deborah Smith, who translated The Vegetarian. And I think I'm going to really like this. To be honest, this should just be on my TBR, but I'm going to read a little bit of it anyway. I've lost track in my own head of what success means for this little experiment. You okay? Oh, big stretch. Yeah. This is classic, right? He's just got off the sofa and now he's waiting for me to fix the pillows again. Okay, Lola, go on. It's fine, there you go. Good boy. You want to go on my side, don't you? Oh my goodness. Okay, 1 second. I've been booted out of my seat. I don't want to hear it from other dog owners saying, oh, you shouldn't let him, da, da, da. He's a sweet, tiny baby. Anyway, what I was saying is, I've lost track. Let me move you 1 second. I've lost track of whether or not what a good result is for doing this. Because in theory, I'm supposed to be getting these books off my TBR, right? Well, no. I said at the start that wasn't necessarily the intention, right? Because I've read some bits and very little has been pushed off the TBR. So, read and staying on the TBR, A Greater Music by Suah. This has no chapters though. So again, this project, it's still a useful exercise because now I know It's only 150 pages, so I would probably like to read that book like in Awana, because it's also it's a bit cerebral. And I think it's maybe a book that you just have to like sink into. So that's still been really useful. I then read a little bit of Jonny Appleseed, which has been on my radar for ages actually. And I was pretty sure I wanted to read this, but it's worth checking. And Jonny Appleseed is about a gay two-spirit character. So the Native American sort of gender identity of two-spirit, which is interesting. And that's like quite punchy. It's quite a short book. I wasn't like blown away by the writing, but I'm like interested enough in it that stayed on. And then Peter Darling, which is another one that's been on by Austin Chant. That's been on my radar for a while. This is like a trans retelling, or not retelling. It's a trans story using some of the characters from Peter Pan. And I've kept that on. I don't think it's going to be like a favourite, but I liked the writing style. It felt quite informal and quite casual, and I think I would like to read that like around Christmas. That's staying there. Then Bonsai by Alejandro Zambra, which is one of the many Fitzcarraldo books that I've got on here. And I loved the opening of this book. I'm just going to read it to you. Right. In the end, she dies and he is alone. Although, really, he'd been alone for some years before her death, before Amelia's death. Let's say her name is or was Amelia, and that his name is, was, and will be Julio. Julio and Amelia. In the end, Amelia dies and Julio does not. The rest is literature. And then it goes into the... And I'm like... Because the blurb made it sound kind of like a kind of love story between two Chilean students. But you just know with a Fitzcarraldo that it's not going to be as simple as it looks. So we've kept that. We've kept, although I wasn't 100% sold on the writing style, but they are an author that I'm interested in reading because I know they're pretty beloved. I read the first little bit of What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. And I read enough that made me think this could be a fun one to read around Halloween. It is a mushroom horror. So, potentially got that to look forward to later in the year. And that is... Oh, they're the ones that I've kept. And then I did decide to remove Vicious by E Schwab, who is, again, an author that I've kind of been like... You hear a lot about V. Schwab online, and I was like, I'll give it a go. I didn't love the writing style, and I wasn't super interested in the premise. So like the premise, I was a bit like, I thought it might be a little too fantasy, too like kind of contemporary fantasy for me. But I was like, I'll give it a go and see what the writing's like. And if I like the writing, then I might give the like story a go. And there was nothing wrong with the writing, it just didn't really do anything for me. So far we have looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books in an hour and 45 minutes. And I've decided to keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. So what's that? I'm getting rid of a third of them. Oh, I'm getting rid of a third of them. That's fine. That is fine. What I am probably going to do now, because I don't know why I thought this would take like 2 days. I'm probably going to just go and read my actual book that I'm reading at the moment. I'm on booker duty still, so I've got The Safe Keep on the go at the moment and the audiobook of My Friends. So I'm probably going to go do that for an hour or so. And then there is a little food market in my park. So the next thing you see will probably be my lunch. And then I'll probably do like another hour and a half of this later today. And we'll just see. It would be cool if I could do 50, wouldn't it? Let's not put pressure on ourselves. But yeah. Cool. Bye. Night, my lads. So we have this little like street food market that comes to my local park. I don't live in the sort of place that gets stuff like that very often, so we always make the effort to go. And it's normally just food, but today it was more of like a little like trinkety stuff. And there were like 5 or 6 food places. None of them had vegan options beyond like chips. So instead, I'm livid about that. I've just placed an order for some falafel from my favourite place that does falafel. So I'm going to get that instead. And I don't know how much more reading is going to happen because I've just decided to watch The Lord of the Rings. So now that I know I can get through the books really quickly, I might not do any more today. We'll see. We'll see. They're comfort films for me, but I do fast forward when I'm doing like a watch like this. So we'll just be doing the like biggie bits. I'm not going to actually watch 9 hours of the Lord of the Rings today, but you can hear him in the background. Everything. The best falafel. Listen to that. No. Zenobia. Hello. It's Sunday. I did in fact watch 3 Lord of the Rings films yesterday. So this week I work in education and this week was the first week of term. So I think what happened yesterday was I'd had a busy week and then I'd done like whatever it was, like an hour and a half of hanging out with you. And then I think my brain had just had enough and was like, please put on something that we can nap through, that we can fast forward bits on, that we can just, and let us rot for the rest of the day. So we allowed brain that grace, but I am back today feeling still quite brain fatigued, but I think we can do a few more books. I'm absolutely not doing 50, but this was never going to be a one and done project. I think probably if you like this kind of video, I will just do some more of these, and we will slowly whittle things down. So I'm probably going to do like maybe another 90 minutes today. I've got the Great North Rónán in the background, which is today up here in Newcastle. I'm not going to have any B-roll of me actually reading this time, because my brother is running and I'm tracking him on my phone, which is also what I film on. So I need my phone, so I won't be filming anything. So this might get a little bit stop and starty, but hopefully that's okay. And like, geez, sorry if it's not okay, but what are you gonna do? The first book I'm gonna try is The Bread the Devil Knead by Lisa Allen-Agostini, which was nominated for the Women's Prize a couple of years ago, I think in 2022. So let's give that a read. Do you want the first line? Shall we see? So what's this described as? Coming of age fiction it is tagged as, which is interesting because our main character is 40, but sure, coming of age. We can come of age at any age, I guess. Fashionable, feisty and fiercely independent, she manages a boutique in Port of Spain, but behind closed doors she's covering up bruises from her abusive partner. Yes, I remember this now. And I think there is something, from what I remember, the prose was very hit and miss with people. Do you know what? I'm not going to read you the first line
because it's written clearly with a Trinidadian accent, and I'm not going to mortify myself and the nation of Trinidad and Tobago by doing that. So just not going to do that. I'm just going to read it. Bye. Yeah, okay. So again, I haven't read the whole chapter. I don't think I need to. I'm keeping this on my TBR. I liked the writing. It is written. I am wondering whether or not I might prefer it on audio, because then you really get the like accent in the voice. But I felt like I could hear it quite well in an ebook. And yeah, it starts. The themes are right there from the start. She's waking up in bed, our main character, and she's in a lot of pain, and she's trying not to wake her partner up. And yeah, I read only about 3 or 4 pages, and I got a really good sense of her character from that. So we are bumping it up onto the definitely reading. I do think I'll put a note that's like, it's obviously like, I mean, I don't exactly read a lot of like light, frothy books. Quite a lot of the books I read are kind of depressing and miserable and about really difficult topics, but I do think that is one that it's like, I think you got to be in a good place to read it, because like it was pretty hard going. So we're going to do that. And then, now this one I am excited about is Hex Darkland Tales by Jenni Fagan, which is about the North Berwick witch trials in like the 15th century, I want to say. Love me some Scottish literature always. And what have we got here? Sorry, I just don't understand that. 1 second. So it opens, it's 1 iris, and then we have a little, what are they called? Like a little swirly serif? Is it serif? Midnight. Open invitation sent via seance. 1st of August 2021 to sell on High Street. 4th of December 1591. Elements, null and air. Now, I don't really know what that means, but I think it's because I don't really know much about seances. So, should we read a little more? I was out in the null, in perpetuity, it seemed. I was bodiless and formless until things began to appear. A row of oil-lit street lamps, a cobbled road sloping down, the moon a thin smile, city trees bending their boughs so far back, the winds wild, tall, tenement buildings line the road to Castle Hill. A witch will die here in the morning. Interesting. Let's continue. Oh, I'm sorry if this is horrendously lit, by the way. It is so dark and rainy here today, and I don't have an extension lead for my light, so appalls. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I liked the writing. It's such a shame. This is one. It does that thing which sometimes I just find, I'm going to close that because I'm getting uplit horribly. It does that thing that annoys me sometimes, where some writers will like pile on the mysteries and like be like, oh, I'm not going to tell you what's going on, so that you read on. And sometimes that works for me, and sometimes it just makes me feel like, well, if I don't know what's going on, then I don't care. And it felt a little bit like, ooh, look, aren't I being intriguing? But I love me some witches, so I don't know what to do. I think I might keep it on my TBR, but like quite low down. And if you have any strong feelings about that, I would genuinely love for you to tell me. Like, if this book is brilliant and I've missed something, or like I'm potentially going to miss something if I don't read it, let me know. So Hex is on, but maybe. In fact, maybe I will put Hex. Is it going to go down with East of Hounslow as a like? Oh, it's also, is it? I didn't notice that. It's only 93 pages. I was hoping that it might start fast and then you settle into it. I don't know how much you're going to be able to settle into it for 93 pages, and if it moves like that for the entire book, then I know I won't like it. I think I'm taking it off. I'm going to take it off. There are so many books to read, guys. There are so many books. We'll never get to all of them. Okay. Interesting. So that's Hex, and then this one is another one that I think is going on the Only When We're Feeling Emotionally Brave. This is Stillborn by Guadalupe Nettel, and as you may be able to tell from the title, I think this is about baby loss. So, but it's a Fitzcarraldo, and it was nominated, it was longlisted, I think, for the International Booker a few years ago. Oh, and it's based on her friend's story, so okay. I've been given up with the what's it called? Tripod. Just a bit too much effort to have to keep putting my phone in the tripod and then keep putting it back onto charge and then keep checking it for my brother's. I'm holding you and I'm sorry if you're wobbly. Okay, so Stillborn, yes, going in the category of only when I feel like I have the brainwaves to read a very difficult book about very difficult things. But I quite liked the writing style. I don't know if it will be a favourite, but like there was nothing in the bit that I read that like turned me off, so that's staying on. And then I also read a little bit of Mild Vertigo by Mieko Kanai, which is translated from the Japanese by Polly Barton, which is another Fitzcarraldo book, and I really liked the writing style of this. It is just about a woman called Natsume who is a housewife, and it's my kind of book in a way. It's just about her sort of mundane, ordinary life. And I'm going to Japan next month, so I might actually bump that up my TBR a little bit. And the next book, I did say I wasn't going to do non-fiction, but I want to read a little bit of this. Now, this is an author that I've heard lots of people raving about recently, who I've never read before. So this is a book by Chidgey, and it's called The Beat of the Pendulum, a found novel. And this is the description. The book of the year. Every day for a year, Chidgey recorded the words and language she came across during her day-to-day life. Phone calls, television commercials, emails, radio shows, conversations with her family, street shut signs, and sat-nav instructions. From these seemingly random snippets, she creates a fascinating portrait of modern life, focusing on things that most people filter out. Chidgey listens in as her daughter, born through surrogacy, begins to speak and develop a personality, and her mother slips into dementia. With her husband, she debates the pros and cons of moving to a new town. With her publisher, she discusses the novel she is writing, while all around the world is bombarding her with information. In The Beat of the Pendulum, Chidgey approaches the idea of the novel from an experimental new direction. It is bold, exciting, funny, moving, and utterly compelling. And then there is a quote from who else? Ali Smith saying, For those who love books, Catherine Chidgey is a find. So do you know what? I wanted to tell you about it because I thought it sounded really cool. It's definitely going on my TBR. I don't even need to read a little bit about it. I'm happy for that to just stay there. So that means instead we are going to be reading a little bit of some Rónán Hession. Never read any Rónán Hession. This is Panenka. Blurb gives absolutely nothing away. His name was Joseph, but for years they called him Panenka, a name that was his sadness and his story. Do you want a first line? Panenka, in football, a penalty technique in which the taker chips the ball artfully into the centre of the goal, counting on the likelihood that the goalkeeper will have dived to either side. Oh, okay. The first line was that blurb that I just read you. Do you want the next one? These past months, the pressure pain in his head had been coming almost every night, building like an Atlantic wave that roiled within his dreams until it broke and crashed through his sleep, shocking him awake. We'll give it a go. Okay. I've read a bit of Panenka. I wasn't sure about the writing style. Are you a bit... I wasn't sure about the writing style. At points it felt really a bit overwrought and a bit laboured. But you start you're with Joseph Panenka, and he's sort of... There's a really interesting metaphor for like pain that kind of... I couldn't work out if it was sort of physical or psychological, but either way he'd sort of been experiencing some pain and gets it quite regularly, where it feels like he can't like move his head and he feels a bit locked in. And then his grandson, you realise his grandson lives with him, along with his parents, I think. And he comes into the bed in the morning and you realise, and I don't know why I'd assumed that Panenka was a younger character, and then they were like, and my grandson's here, and I was like, oh. But yeah, I did quite like their relationship more than I liked the writing. I don't know. So I'm going to keep it on the TBR. It might be one that I don't finish if I start it, or it could just be that my brain's not quite braining the way it needs to. And on that note, I'm going to stop now. I think I wouldn't be giving books a fair shout now if I tried to read any more, so I am not going to do that, and instead I'm going to go make a pie and carry on watching The Great North Run and have a chilled time. But let me know if you kind of enjoyed this sort of style of video, if you have any suggestions on better ways of doing it that don't feel so like stop-starty, if you want more or less information about the books. This was obviously just like a random selection from the bottom of my TBR, but if you wanted like themed ones, I could maybe think about that. So just let me know. So we read in total 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 16 books, and 5 of those books are off the TBR. So, do you know what? I'm quite happy with that, because it means that at least all of these books that have been weighing on me, or the majority of these books, are actually books that I probably will enjoy and will want to read. It would have been really depressing if I'd read loads and been like, oh no, I don't want to read that. Oh no, I don't want to read that either. But I'm glad that like at least some of them have departed my list. And yeah, who knows when I will get to that 2,500 page Chinese book. I feel like I've mentioned it on the channel now, so it's got to happen. That might be a goal for next year, you know. Maybe just over the course of the year, I read a giant book. Okay. I'm going to love you and leave you. If this was your first time here and you want to stick around for some more videos, that would be lovely. Do click subscribe. If you could give this video a thumbs up and share it if you want to share it, that would be very appreciated. And I'm now going to probably have a nap. Well, I'm going to make a pie and then I'm going to have a nap. Thank you.